Hi, Verl Workman here, CEO of Workman Success Systems, and welcome to the Faces of Real Estate. We have another amazing episode today with a great presenter and a great giver. Jason Miller is going to share with us what he does with his team to make a difference in the community he serves. So, Jason, first of all, welcome and thanks for being part of the Faces of Real Estate.
Well, it's great to be here, Verl.
So, Jason, just give us a quick snapshot. Tell us a little bit about your business.
So I owned two RE/MAX offices here in Southeast Michigan, and I run one of the top 5 teams for RE/MAX in all of the Southeast Michigan area. So been doing this for almost 26 years.
Well, you're going to get it figured out pretty soon.
Maybe.
I like to say 26 years is a good start. I think it took me about 30 years in business before I figured out that I wasn't doing it right and I needed to fix a bunch of things. But this time around, well, I'll tell you, it's a whole new ball game. Tell me a little bit about your team. What does that look like?
So our team is led by myself and my father, Jim. And then we have 6 people who work for us on that team. We call them associates. We let them both list and sell. We have a digital media department that we handle in-house. So we do all of our marketing here locally and don't have to send it out. And, administrative staff isn't included in that number. So we have a full-time admin as well.
Yeah, your digital media stuff's really cool. That's another interview for another time. And we'll get into that because you guys do some really innovative things with your digital media and the way that you transact and lead generate today. You're kind of a real estate family. Tell me a bit about how you got into the business.
Sorry, you cut out for me there for a second, Verl.
Yeah, I was just saying you're kind of like a real estate family. Tell me how you got into the business.
Yeah, my dad was in the car sales and ran car dealerships when I was in school, going through high school. And as it is in most of those industries, volatility happens. And he decided to get out of that business and get into real estate. And 3 years later, I came in full time. So we kind of grew up together in the business. It was most people assume that I'm second generation because they see us together and they go, "Oh, his dad was in the business." Well, my dad was really relatively new in the business when I jumped in too. So we kind of learned together.
So what'd you do before real estate?
I actually was a manager for Target. I did some departmental management for them and then left and worked for a Macy's specialty store at the time and realized quickly that I loved retail, but I hated the hours. So what better? We'll just get into real estate because, I'm going to work less hours doing that. Found out quickly that wasn't true.
A lot of people think that, you start your own business, you're going to work less and make a ton of money. You really work for a lot less, working a lot more.
Yeah, pretty much. We just, it was a great opportunity for me to come in because I knew I at least had somebody who cared about me as a mentor, which is, 26 years ago, I guess we were the start of teams before there was really teams in the business. So a little bit different than other people.
That's kind of cool. So your wife works with you now. Tell me about your family.
So I've got, a wife of almost 25 years now, 24 years, high school sweetheart who broke up with me twice. So I was a closer even back then. 2 children, 2 daughters, 9 and 14.
So not unlike a brokerage, great marriage is all about recruiting and retention.
It is all about retention.
Well, you must be doing something right if she's still working with you.
Either that or she's just figured out it's harder to find a new one.
Yeah, I just try not to screw it up. And I get up every day, try not to screw it up. That's my goal.
Yeah, do our best.
Just start with yes, ma'am. So, all right. So let me have a little bit of snapshot. So you're in Michigan. What areas do you serve? What are the communities you serve?
So the communities I serve are, if you think about the city of Detroit and then the city of Ann Arbor, we are about 7 miles from Ann Arbor and about 18 miles from Detroit. So we kind of serve what would be considered Western Wayne, Southwestern Oakland, and Livingston counties. So that's kind of the geographic location that we work. Because we've been lifelong residents here and we've seen the area grow, we serve a bigger geographic area than a lot of people I talk with across the country. They're surprised by how big our geography is. The biggest reason for that is we build cars in Detroit for a living. So people here tend to live further than where they work most of the time and are willing to make those commutes and drives to the city centers.
So what do you drive?
What do I drive? I drive a GMC Sierra Denali truck.
I'm just making
Um,
sure it's a
oh,
Ford or GM.
absolutely, absolutely. In my market, in my market, they don't care if you're driving a GM or a Ford or a Chrysler if they work for Toyota. But if
Right?
you drive a Toyota and they work for one of those other companies, they do get a little sensitive.
Do they? That's funny. So, I've never thought about, you have to be careful what you drive, but in Michigan, I'm sure it actually matters.
It actually, it does. And, because we've been through a major downturn in the economy before, when the last crash in the market happened, it was really important to people because I was going into people's houses where they had lost their job working for one of the big three U.S. auto manufacturers, and you'd see them peeking through the window just to see what you drove up in.
Yeah, it was funny. I had a client of mine and a good friend up in the Oregon area that during the downturn was helping people who did a lot of short sells. And he said, I remember pulling up to a short sell and a guy answering the door, and I had sold him his house. And he says, how old's that Mercedes? And he told him about 4 years old. He goes, I think you bought that when you sold me this house. Now I'm losing it. And I have a problem having to pay you again. And so he immediately went out and bought a Chevy Volt, and he's been driving a Chevy Volt ever since because it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right to, even though it was a 4-year-old, real estate car. We used to think that the way we showed success was big hair and a big car. And now the way that I like to measure success is how much did you give away and what kind of a difference can you make in your community, not how fancy of a car can you drive. And I think that's
Yeah,
kind of,
it's a big issue here.
yeah.
So the impact in our community is probably more important to us than the vehicles. Um, but I'm not going to lie, I still drive a nice truck. So
Well,
everybody comes up and goes, "Wow, it's a really nice looking truck."
you know what? A Chevy Denali's nice. I have 6 kids, so we had 2 Suburbans forever. You
Yeah, I
can't
get it.
go anywhere with the family. You've got to have all those seat belts, and if they bring a friend, now you need 2. So we had 2. We were a 2 Suburban family for many, many years. Of my kids were little growing up. So
I always say I'm good for the economy because I buy a lot of gas.
yeah, right, right. All right, so let's get into a little bit about your community and the giving back. So tell me how you decided to start giving back as a team. Is this something you've always done, or was it something that one day you decided, you know what, I want to make a difference? Kind of get me started.
When I looked back after, receiving your inquiry about doing this, I kind of said, was there a catalyst or something that started the process for us? And we had always done things. We had just done a lot of them under the radar, I guess, or things that we didn't even think about. It was just kind of part of the culture that I grew up with as a family. And so I didn't necessarily recognize it. And then for us as a business, it was, we didn't really start doing it until we stopped worrying about fear of what someone might say, with us supporting organizations that we support and not worrying about whether someone is going to be, all for what we're doing, or maybe they don't like that organization. And we finally just said, if we're going to try to make a difference, we can't worry about what everybody thinks. We just have to worry about what we believe is good inside our heart and that we know is good for us. And there's plenty of great organizations to support, and we found a few that are really close to us, and that's the ones we've kind of stuck with then.
And so let's just kind of talk about some of the things that you do, and how do you identify who you're going to give to, and do you have like a structure of like everybody gives 10% or we all give a day? Tell me what your giving culture is in your team, in your offices.
So with our team, there's a lot of different pieces that we used when thinking about how we're going to be able to give back. And honestly, team members are probably the best resource for it because they're in touch with many different people throughout the community at any given point in time. And so one of our very first things is a concept of see a need, fill a need. And what that really means to us is that we find people that maybe are going through tough times, maybe a family who's been displaced, people who, for one reason or another, weren't able to have a Christmas, things of that nature that can really be more timely, things that you just respond to in the moment. And with those, we just get input from other people. The more you do of that, the more the community just kind of knows that you're able to help. And sometimes it's just connecting them with a resource. We got a call earlier in the spring from somebody who was displaced from work, and they just need a resource with help figuring out how to help them with their rent and those types of things. So, and then a lot of it is just a matter of, somebody who needs time. They need us to, help clean up a yard or those things. So it can be both monetarily and then it can also be time oriented. But with the instant, what we like to call instant see a need, fill a need stuff, that comes directly from the team members or somebody in the community typically reaching out to us. And then we have other things that we do that are more systematic. They're things that we do on a regular basis. They're ingrained in the physical and emotional culture of our team. And those things are ongoing. So the see a need, fill a need, we could do a lot of things all at once and then have nothing for a while. So a good example of that was we just did a drive-through hand sanitizer refilling station, because hand sanitizer is hard to find, and we happen to have a supplier that we could get many gallons from, and so we just opened it up. We put out a tent in front of our building and invited people to come by for a few hours and just drive up, hand us their container. We filled it up for them, sanitized the whole container, and then gave it back.
Did you get a lot of people participate in that?
We did actually. We didn't know what to expect, and now we kind of know that until it becomes readily available at all the local stores, we're just going to do it once a month.
I love that. I found that too. I could find bulk, but I couldn't find the individual bottles.
Yeah, and we feel that if we found one person that needed it, then that would have been fine. So we believe that it starts by just not expecting people to show up, but deciding what you're going to offer and what you're able to do, and then just leave it up for faith and hope someone decides to come and take advantage of it. And if they don't, it wasn't that you weren't trying to do something. It was just that at that moment in time there wasn't anybody who needed it. So
what is the plant team with your church?
So about 5 years ago, I got approached by a friend of ours that we've known for years, and he was starting a new church and said he needed some people to be part of a team of people just to help get it started. And that was all we were going to be involved in. Lo and behold, 5 years later, now we've helped start 2 churches here in our local community. We do that through an organization called the Send Network, and they help plant churches all over the United States and all over the world. So my family serves in all sorts of capacities there. So we've done everything from helping people find a parking spot in the parking lot to rocking babies so parents could be in service, to setting things up and tearing down, because for most of that time we've been mobile. So one of our churches now has a final permanent location, and our other one is mobile. So every week we set up and tear down. So
there's always opportunities, isn't there?
There's always an opportunity to serve. You just have to be willing to do it, and then B, not close your eyes when someone reaches out to you and says, "Can you help?"
It's kind of interesting with all the social unrest that's going on right now. So much of the problems that our country faces would be solved by people just stepping in and helping. And instead of shooting video and watching, just getting engaged and saying, "That's not right, let's fix it."
Yeah, just step in and instead of saying, "I don't know what to do," well, none of us know what to do all the time. But showing up and saying you're willing to do something and you're willing to help in any way you can, even if that's just being a person who's willing to listen to something, or being someone who's willing to say, "Hey, I'm willing to help, pick up a trash can," or "I'm willing to, watch a kid." There's many things you can do. You just have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone and say, "I don't know. I don't have all the solutions. I don't have all the answers, but I have a heart that wants to help." And people will guide you in the way you can best help them.
Yeah, I love that. I had an interview the other day with an agent who said, and it was a young lady. She just basically said, anything that involves with children, I can't stand by and allow children to suffer. And it made my heart melt as she talked about what she did with children. And I think it's really fun that you have a very strong focus as a team on helping children. Do you mind telling me a little bit? I've never heard about Compassion International. Tell me a little bit about what they do and how you get involved with them.
So Compassion International was originally started as Compassion for Korea. And it was founded by a gentleman who was formerly part of the military in Korea, and came back. Long story short, came back afterwards to Korea and saw all these kids that didn't have the family intact that they were that they had probably before the war happened, and he was basically charged with the concept of, well, now that you've seen this, what are you going to do about it? And so Compassion International works with people in local communities, typically through a local church, and they help meet the needs of kids and families. So things from daily meals, clothing, education. They work in just about every continent in the world. They work in tons of different countries. They work in places that are war ravaged, heavily populated with the AIDS virus, lots of different things, and they focus on meeting the needs of kids and their physical and emotional needs that they have at that time, which are vastly different than those for adults. So
right.
They just kind of that's their focus. So it started with my family, my kids. We adopted our son there. His name, and my kids couldn't pronounce his name, so they nicknamed him Moose because his name looked a little bit like the pronunciation of moose. So, and then that just kind of spawned and said, very much the same thing. How can we just sit idly back and watch more kids suffer worldwide when it's very easy for us to get involved, sponsor more kids, and be a part of the solution instead of just sitting idly back and saying, wow, there's a lot of kids in the world who don't have what they need.
So what's your son's actual name?
Mustafa.
Is that Korean?
No, he's actually, Moose is from Africa.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so he's Moose is probably 8 years old now, almost 9, and loves soccer. That's his favorite thing to do. So we're able to communicate with him through the organization. So we can send letters, send gifts. We make sure that, we recognize and remember things like his birthdays. The thing that's probably most important to my family is that my kids can recognize the gifts that they have and what they have internally to give back to other people, and the appreciation for the lifestyle that they have each and every day. And it's been nice to see my children not take that for granted, simply because they have a vested interest in a kid who doesn't have all the things they have.
So you have several children that you sponsor that are like family to you. How many does your team sponsor?
We have 10 in the office, 10 for the team. Our goal for 2020 is another 10. So 20 by the end of 20, which means, that's 20 sets of letters we receive, 20 sets of letters we have to send back, 20 sets of kids to be invested in. And it's really, I wasn't expecting the support from the team when I brought it, because I didn't bring it as an option. I brought it as, this is what we're going to do. Didn't ask for permission, just said, this is what we're going to do as a team. Got a lot of questions from them. And when I answered all the questions, they were like, oh yeah, we could totally get behind doing this. So we've supported that organization for many years. And, we encourage others to just find a way you can make a difference. And that just happened to be one we found that we've been able to get behind.
I love that. So what are your plans going forward? You say you want to go from 10 to 20 kids. Are there any other things on the horizon from a giving perspective?
My wife and I are products of our local high school in the community that one of my offices is in. And both of us were actively involved in the vocal music program growing up. And so we've made a concerted effort to say that no kid that goes to school there should not be able to go on the trips that the choir programs have, or go to camp and do those things. So we've decided that that's a personal goal of ours, because we know how impactful that was for us. So again, I guess it's children focused, but maybe older kids, because it's high school age. And a lot of people forget about them. It's very easy to want to help younger kids. And I would tell people that a lot of times you look at your community, you say, there's probably nobody in this community who has a need, and that's not true. Even in the wealthiest of communities, there's plenty of kids whose parents are doing everything they can just to put them in that community to get the best opportunities. But anything extra, they just don't have the means to do. And as long as we have the means to do that, we're going to continue to support them as their benefactor.
That's really cool. So it didn't sound like you're going to be stopping your charitable giving and making a difference anytime soon.
No, ultimately, I think it's probably the part that gives me, outside of my own kids and my wife and my personal family, gives me the most joy about what we do, is helping make a difference in other people's lives, whether that's helping them find a home or sell a home, or find their forever place, or go through a difficult time as a family. Giving back is just, from a selfish perspective, it makes you feel good, and it's good to know that you can make a difference. And honestly, those of us that are in the real estate business have tremendous opportunities that others don't have. And with, great privilege comes great responsibility. And we need to be looking at that privilege and saying, how do we take those gifts that we have, whether that's economic gifts or skills, and use those gifts to help impact the world that we live in.
I tell my kids all the time, where much is given, much is expected.
Absolutely.
And so, because the opportunities they have, there's some requirements that go along with that. You have to, the way you show your gratitude is not by saying thanks, it's by how you live your life and the difference you make in helping other people. So for agents that didn't grow up in a family of givers, that didn't have the culture that your parents did such a great job instilling in you, how would you recommend that somebody get started? I want to start doing something. What would you say to that agent that wants to start giving and they don't know where to start?
I would say start with something that you are either moved by or have passion for. So if you see something that just strikes a chord inside you and says, wow, this is something that's very important to me, that's a great place to start. Or find an organization that you're passionate about their mission, whatever their mission is, whether that's, animals and you want to work with an animal rescue, whether it's kids, whether it's serving at a local hospital. I would start by saying, reach out to those organizations that are doing it on a bigger scale than you can maybe see, and just ask them, what needs do you have right now, and how can I best fill those needs for you? Because nobody knows better than they do where they're deficient. And their needs may be something as simple as, we just need more volunteers to help us, clean up a local park, if that's the organization that you're looking to help. Their needs could be economic. You could say, look, I don't have a lot of time, but one of my skills is I'm really good at creating money and making money. So monetary donations are always a great thing. But I always say, the more you can ingrain yourself in the culture of the organization, the easier it is for you to continue to serve. And eventually you'll just find opportunities that will just pop up. If you start looking for them, things will just emerge. You don't even know they were going to happen. And the next thing you know, your phone rings and it's somebody with a need that you can help with.
I love that. I love the simple concept of, what do you need? How can I help? Like, let's just ask. We call that the open mouth dialogue. Just open your mouth. What do you need? How can I help? And then actually do it.
Right. Now there was the key. I think that's the key, Verl, is that you can't say I'll serve in any way you need me to serve, and then not want to serve the way they ask you to serve.
Right.
So if you're actually going at it from a servant's perspective, a servant's heart, you just say, okay, I'm willing to give to you. I'm willing to do what you need me to do. And then you can't put lots of guidelines around it. Now, it could be like, I physically am not able to do something. That's right. Different. But for a lot of people, they go, I want to serve, but I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. And then at the end of it, so I really just want to do that. If that's where you are and you know exactly what your gifts are and exactly what you want to do, just tell them, I'm really good at this. Can you use me?
I laugh because it's a conversation I had with my son last night, getting ready to go on a family vacation. He says, how can I help? I said, let me give you a list. I told him all the things. And he looked up at me without smiling and said, yeah, I'm not doing that. I want to help, but just not with the things you need. I want to give you the things I want to give. And I'm like, yeah, that's not how it works. It's not how it works. You got to do
It's
things that you
exactly how it works for kids.
right.
You know,
You're
I want
training.
to help.
You're in training.
Yeah, I want to help clean my room. The
Well,
reality is that that's a place where most people they don't want to do what they don't want to do, and they want to do what they want to do. So if that's really where you are, and you know what your skill is, and you know how you want to help somebody, then just tell them this is something I can do for you. Can I be of service to you that way?
Jason, I believe you and I could have a conversation that last hours because you're just interesting, and I love your giving attitude and the spirit you have behind it. On behalf of the Faces of Real Estate, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for making a difference to all those kids that you adopt and that you sponsor. Thanks for making a difference to the community that you're in and that you serve. And I wish you continued success with your team and with your family as you continue to make a difference in other people's lives. I know that you'll be blessed and you'll continue to have that success. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Verl.